6Three podcast. Your home for the most in-depth analysis on all things sports, entertainment, and basically anything else you can come up with. Where we have some of the hottest takes, some of the craziest takes, there we go. Some of the dumbest takes, and where we believe that opinions are like. And now, to your hosts, Joel, Isaiah,
and Ben. Thanks for tuning into the 6Three podcast. I am your host, Joel, with my co-hosts, Isaiah and Ben. Welcome to our September 15, 2020 episode 30-something. Did not come prepared on that number. Anywho, week one is in the books. We got a look at the same old Lions. So if we were looking for any sense of normalcy in 2020, I think we got it. Week one with the Detroit Lions against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Yeah, I did not actually, except for Thursday night and the third quarter of the Tampa Bay Saints game. I did not watch a lick of football this weekend. I was with the fam, so we just didn't watch it. But I did keep up the score with the Lions, and at one point, I looked to my family and was like, "Hey, the Lions are doing all right. It's 23-6." Then I looked at my phone like a quarter later, and it was late in the fourth, and the Bears were driving, and I was like, "Oh, they're gonna lose."
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty heart-wrenching, heartbreaking to watch, but I wasn't even surprised.
And you had to watch it with Bears fans.
Bears fans. They were pretty subdued, not gonna lie, because we were doing other stuff. But yeah, it wasn't.
Well, they were probably pretty subdued because they pretty much probably wrote their own team off, and then they forgot.
Well, they did. They had. It was kind of. I should have. If I had a recording on them, they were very. I mean, just dead pretty much, and just didn't care anymore. And then finally they started coming back, but they were pretty subdued for the most part. I mean, I don't know. It was just, you could kind of tell that we all were just like, neither of these teams are very good right now. So it was just annoying to watch. I wasn't surprised the Lions blew it. I was a little surprised how they blew it, I guess.
So that's the question. We talk about same old Lions, but you still got to kind of look at what happened. Obviously, I know, Joel, you were furious about this, but DeAndre Swift has to catch that pass. But
he dropped 0 balls his entire college career at Georgia.
Regardless of that one play, well, taking that one play into effect, but also taking into effect the entire fourth quarter and the rest of the game. What do you guys point to as what it did it in for the Lions in this game?
It's coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching. The coaching once again got way too conservative. For a while, it seemed like they were still going to, they had this whole little line of put the dagger in, and they're, run the dagger. And they didn't even run a dagger route with their wide receivers. They just, what kind of dagger are you going to put in? You're running the ball. And granted, Adrian Peterson was more than impressive to me. Like he's the highlight of the Lions in that game, just the fact that he almost touched 100 yards in his first game of the Lions at his age, and we thought he was going to split carries. That's something to look forward to, but injuries, and then you get to a point where you have to put your special teams corner in to cover their number 2 wide receiver, Anthony Miller, so that was crap. Amani Arawari was the only healthy starter out there in the secondary, so I don't know. Just a frustrating game. Injuries plagued us, but injuries are going to plague every team because, they didn't have a preseason. The training camp was limited. They're not hitting their own teammates like they would in a real game. So injuries are going to be way more common than ever.
Yeah, and I don't regret them getting rid of him, but it's a game where you really want Darius Slay.
Yep. I just think, yes, it was coaching, and yes, it was play calling, and it got too conservative. But, it was too conservative most of the time, and then suddenly for absolutely no reason aggressive, right? So it's like they have an opportunity to run some clock in that drive that Stafford threw the interception, and then suddenly he's forcing balls into tight windows, and it's just like that's not even a safe play call. That's not even something that's like, okay, if you want to throw the ball, that's fine, but throw it into advantageous situations. Throw it in one-on-one, throw screen passes, throw things that are high percentage pass plays, when instead we're just forcing things over the middle, on drag routes to guys, and it's just that's not gonna do it. Now, obviously, like the throw itself is on Stafford, like was a terrible decision and should have just never been thrown. However, the coach has got to put him in a situation where they can be successful and he can be successful. Obviously, handcuffed by injuries to an extent. Obviously, we should have won the game if Swift just catches the ball at the end of the game. But, beyond that, it's like, they were conservative in points, and then at other points it was just like you could have just handed the ball to Adrian Peterson. He was running through them for a period of time there in the fourth quarter, and it would have been fine. And they would have been fine. They probably would have been in a better situation at the end. Forced Trubisky to go down the field, down a full length of the field. And that would have certainly I think probably would have led to a win. Bears probably still would have had a comeback, but I don't think they would have been able
17 points with chewing clock as much as they could have done would have been too much to overcome.
Exactly. That would have been way too much. You're up 3 scores. You might as well chew as much as you can. You're up 2 scores that, the whole fourth quarter changes the game a little bit. But you're up 3 scores. I mean, that's hard to overcome if you just make some first downs, chew some clock.
So would we, and I think this always happens every season, there's a coach that gets fired midway through the season. In your eyes of all the coaches in the league, is Matt Patricia at the top of that list?
I don't know if he's number 1, but he's certainly top 3 or 4. I don't know who else you would put there right this second after week 1, but
Nick Fangio.
Yeah, maybe. But he's certainly in the top 3 or 4, I'd say, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
off the cuff, probably 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah.
I want to, root for, and I do root for, but I want to support Patricia and think he's going to turn it around. And I think a lot of the stuff that he does, I agree with, and I think I can get on board with. It's just like that in-game management stuff has been bad since he got there, and they just haven't gotten better. And I know it's a mess there, that the organization itself is a mess currently right now, but you got to see some improvement year after year, and and the moves that they make in the offseason and the things that they're implementing as a coaching staff need to show something. And I know it's only week 1, and I'm not jumping off the ship 100% yet, but you have to make some progress and show that to both your fan base and to ownership. If I were ownership with the Lions right now, so
yeah. All right. Well, we have a guest on today where he's gonna come on and chat a little bit about his real estate business at the Buskard Group, and he's gonna come on and chat about the NBA. Definitely his forte. So I'm gonna get Don in here to have a little chat. Hey, Don, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up?
Not too much.
What's up?
So, little bit about you. You work at the Buskard Group with my man, Brett.
Yeah, one of the new guys. Just started right after the new year.
Okay.
So
we're gonna have you talk about your obviously your specialty is talking about the NBA, but we're gonna at the end we're gonna have you plug in a little bit about the Buskard Group, what you guys offer there.
Yeah, for sure. Do a quick plug.
All right.
Yeah, so, I'll lead most of the conversation on the NBA, so everyone feel free to join in, but obviously we got the ringer Don in, so even though game 1 of the East Finals is going on right now, I did want to start with talking about the later game tonight. Game 7, Nuggets-Clippers. Nuggets, could be – with the 13th or 14th team to come back from 3-1 down and win 3 games in a row. It'd be crazy if they did, but a lot of people still in all these games have been favoring the Clippers just because of how strong they are. So I guess to you guys, what do you think what are you thinking about this game, game 7, and then who wins the series and why?
Well, kind of looking like taking the Nuggets.
Okay.
But they kind of don't have any pressure on them. I think, too, it being in the bubble, traditionally, Game 7 would be in LA, home court advantage. Now, all of a sudden, like I said, pressure's on LA, but they get off to a good start. They get the crowd behind them. They get that home court advantage. Now, all of a sudden, the pressure goes to the Nuggets. you don't really have that atmosphere here in the bubble. So I think it's kind of got to ride the momentum with the Nuggets winning the last two and kind of looking good in the second half of the games doing so.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I don't think like we realize how much home field advantage like matters in like all these sports. I don't have fans or in a bubble or anything like that. And just I don't know. I'd like to look at probably the historical stats on it, but I do wonder what the record is, in game sevens, home versus away. I do kind of wonder. I'm sure it's slanted towards home. So that was a good point there. I really do think that I probably lean towards Nuggets just because they're hot. And I think in the bubble, you've seen these teams just get really hot for a stretch of games. Even before the playoffs started, you look at like the Suns, for example, got super hot. Clearly, we're not a better team than a lot of the teams that they're playing, and then than all the playoff teams. But they got super hot and ran right through the bubble and were undefeated. And it can happen. You're shooting at the same rims, shooting at the same background all the whole time. So if you get hot, you can probably beat anybody. So I agree with the Nuggets pick.
I like a lot of the Nuggets players, but I feel like Kawhi's going to come alive. Paul George is going to do something. Marcus Morris might have a little bit of effect in this, maybe. Hopefully, I'm a Clippers guy though. If I watch another team besides the Pistons when the Pistons are actually good, I personally kind of root for the Clippers for whatever reason. Even he wasn't even that good, but Corey Majette when he was on the Clippers was one of my favorite players back in the early 2000s.
I love the Clippers with Darius Miles, Quentin Richardson, the Candyman, back early 2000s. I know they were terrible, but they were fun to watch. They could have stuck together.
Yeah, Throwback Tuesday for sure. I don't know. I think the raw talent. I think Kawhi, obviously the damage he did when he was with the Raptors even last year. Like there is a clutch factor to Kawhi Leonard. I think maybe he can do enough to overcome the momentum like you talked about that the Nuggets have going for him. This could be an OT game. I could see an OT game here.
Yeah, and I think the Clippers, so I was watching this game one earlier, and there was a graphic that the Nuggets have come back from 3 15 or more point deficits in this playoffs alone. Two of them against the Clippers. So one was 15, one was 19. So I don't know, if the veterans on the Clippers are finally going to keep that going, or keep that from happening for a game 7, finally just be like, you know what, we're not letting you get back in this game, because I expect the Clippers to come out the hottest. I think they have the most to prove. They have the most on the line, especially Joel, you mentioned him, Paul George. He has this nickname Playoff P, which is hilarious because sometimes in the playoffs he is a stud. He'll drop 30 or 40. He is one of the top 10 wing defenders in the league, so he'll start locking up their best player. But then other games he scores less than 10 points, and he's inefficient, and he has a lot of turnovers. So not only do the Clippers have the most pressure on him, but I think Paul George does, because we know Kawhi can do it. Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell as bench players, they don't have the world resting on their shoulders. But Paul George for sure does. He has a little stigma around him of just not being clutch in the playoffs. So he's got to come out and do that. So I still think the Clippers will pull it off. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be close all the way through instead of the Nuggets having to come down from 15 or 10 points like they have for a few games. But it's definitely I think Nikola Jokic is going to have a triple-double. I wouldn't be surprised if Jamal Murray has 30 or more points. But Kawhi is also, in my mind, going to have 30 or more points. And playoff P, Paul George needs to as well. So me and Joel picked the Clippers. Don and Ben, you picked the Nuggets. So Don and Ben, you can go first. If you're looking at the Nuggets versus the Lakers, what do you think about that matchup, and who do you think wins that, and how many games?
See, that's the thing. I'd rather have the Clippers win to see that Clippers-Lakers matchup. But yeah, if I'm sticking to my pick, like I said, I don't think the Nuggets or anyone else in the league has an answer for AD. And also, too, LeBron in a series, he may not be scoring the most points, but he's either getting the most rebounds, he's dishing out the most assists, he's doing what it takes to win. And like I said, I think if my pick is right tonight and the Nuggets come out on top, I don't think the Lakers are going to be tested too much in the next series by the Nuggets.
Yeah, I'd say Lakers just probably sweep. I don't think the matchup is horrible for, like I said, probably everybody against the Lakers right now, but the Nuggets, it's probably even more so for anybody left. It's a lot of times right now basketball is just about matchups, and there's no answer for AD. LeBron's kind of on a tear right now, and he's going
Kuzma
to turn it up. And Kuzma's been great, yeah. So I would just, I'd probably pick, if I were to pick it, I'd probably, just for a safe pick, I'd probably say Lakers in 5. So.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing. Like the Lakers, their biggest, like I did a write-up before the playoffs started, and the Lakers' biggest weakness, their biggest strength is AD and LeBron, obviously. LeBron's obviously top 5, but AD's top 5 player in the league too, borderline. So having 2 borderline top 5 players, like that's ridiculous, but their depth and the production that they get from people like, Avery Bradley during the season, but he's not there yet now, but Rajon Rondo, Kyle Kuzma, like all these other guys, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, if they can step up, then the Lakers' ceiling is a championship. But if they couldn't, then it's probably the conference finals. And we'll see how it is in the conference finals. But their role players have definitely made a stand. So they look really dangerous. But, yeah, I'll swing it to Joel and then me. Clippers versus Lakers, it's what everyone wants, like Don said. It's what everyone wanted when the playoffs started and what we were going to miss if they didn't restart. So, Joel, if you're looking at Clippers Lakers, who do you think wins that, and what are your favorite parts of that matchup?
Lakers, they have a questionable depth, and like they're inconsistent depth, I would say. But obviously LeBron and Anthony Davis, just they're clutch when it matters. You mentioned JaVale McGee. They have Danny Green, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Then they have veteran depth, Dwight Howard, Markieff Morris, Rajon Rondo. Like it's deep where it needs to be. Guys that have been there before. And yeah, whether the Clippers win or the Nuggets win tonight, I don't see any of them holding the candle. So I'd say 5, just because I think the Lakers are going to maybe rest up extra on one of the games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Lakers still in 5 to whoever.
Yeah, I think I would love to pick the Clippers because like I don't like LeBron James and I don't like the Lakers, so I want they've been my best bet the whole season to beat them. So I'm like, man, I really want them to do that. And just seeing Kawhi versus LeBron, they're probably going to guard each other the whole series, at least the majority of it, and that would so we haven't had that since the Heat and Spurs. So I would love to see that again. But yeah, if the Lakers role players like Kuzma is doing well and playing good defense and just trying, if Rondo's dishing out 10 assists, like if these guys are stepping up and like acting like championship players, then the Lakers are just going to roll. I'd say 5 games. I think that, I don't know, the Nuggets are going to be spent after this series. So I don't know if they win a single game, but I think the Clippers are going to be, if they win this, they're going to be like playing no games. They're going to be riding hot. And I think they'll take game 1 at least. Maybe the first 2 till the Lakers make some adjustments, and those younger players make the adjustments. Because I think LeBron James and AD, if they drop game 1, they'll come to play the next game. But some of those younger players, some of those less-minute players who don't have conference finals experience yet, might not come to play till maybe game 3, even maybe game 4. But, yeah, at this point it doesn't look like anybody stands a chance against the Lakers. And we can talk about that in a little bit, but about what they'll look like in the championship, but we can talk about the series that's going on right now. So it's a highlight right now, so I can't tell you the score, but it looks, I think the Clippers
92-82 I got.
92-82. I was going to say they were about up 10. Celtics versus Miami. I thought I picked the Bucks to make it this far. Obviously, I think a lot of people did, but it was my most intriguing series. Like if this happened, I was the most excited about it because they are incredibly deep teams, incredibly offensively and defensively potent teams. Like it was a great matchup. So we'll go in the same order around, but what are you guys thinking about this series? And what do you, even looking at just game 1, but just looking at the rest of the games too, like what do you guys think?
Yeah, like you said, I was very intrigued about this series because of the dynamics of the team. And actually, this was my Eastern Conference final that I did pick just because I wanted to see it that bad.
Yeah.
But I kind of, like I said, I've been watching the game, seeing it tonight. I feel like it's going to have a very similar flow. I think the Heat are going to get those spurts that they're going to be able to compete. They're going to be able to compete, hit a few shots here and there. But I think the Celtics, just, again, their depth, they can hit you at all different angles. You never know who's going to drop 30 on you that night. So I think, again, they're just going to wear them down game by game and just kind of methodically beat them. And, yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting to see out of the Celtics, again, who kind of steps up and then even taking it to the next level if they play the Lakers or whoever. Again, seeing if Kemba Walker finally shows up, I guess, because he's kind of been missing this whole playoffs, and he's actually one of my favorite players in the league. So I'm hoping he's just waiting to the finals to put a show on. But like I said, I'm pretty confident the Celtics are going to be able to handle the Heat, just, again, based on their depth and just kind of overpowering them in their skilled positions.
I would agree. I think the Heat, they're never going to really be out of a game, in my opinion, just because, I mean, their shooting keeps them in most games. You know, you got a lot of shooters on the team. I mean, you have Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. I mean, Dragic can get hot. Jimmy Butler has been really awesome these playoffs. So really, I think they'll stay in most games. But I think the Celtics, like you said, are probably just going to overwhelm them. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes like 5-6 games, though. I don't think they're going to like dominate them, like run them out of the building by any means. And if the Heat get hot for a few games, they could make things really interesting. But it's hard to be so three-point centric and reliant on three-pointer just because, I mean, through a long series, I mean, guys' legs get tired. I mean, they get worn out, and then suddenly you'll see they'll go through droughts where they don't score for for possession after possession after possession, and that's when the Celtics will probably start running away with probably not running away with the games, but that's where you'll see their runs, where they'll, go on 10-0, 12-0 runs real quick. And that's unfortunately kind of where the Heat are. They don't have a way, unless Jimmy Butler can really ISO up some guys, they don't really have a way where they can go and just get easy buckets just like that. They have to run, some tight offensive sets to get 3-point shooters open. And, they can, and they will, and I'm sure, they consistently can, but it's hard to do that all game long for a full series against a team that's, as good or probably better than you. So probably I'd say Celtics in 6.
Yeah, I would say Celtics also win this, but I don't know, man. With Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart, they've got a 9-point lead here with like 7 minutes left. That even an NBA playoff standard, that's still a pretty steep hill to climb. Just how fast paced the game is at this point, and NBA level, like people are going to score. So 9-point lead right now with 7 minutes left. I really think it's a steep climb for the Heat. So, but I think the Celtics will pull it off regardless. Probably, I think they could even do it in 5.
Yeah. I have it going 6, maybe even 7. Just because both of these teams just fight. I think that's the thing that's shown in this playoffs. Like they just like even versus the Sixers, who the Celtics could have just kind of taken their time with, maybe not swept, but they just like came at them hard every single game. So I think definitely though, the biggest thing for me is that I did like a little write-up, but the Celtics, like the Heat right now with Gordon Hayward out especially, have more depth. They have just more options they're going to throw at them. But the Celtics, to me, have like the best starting 5 out of this series. Like they have like, and I think the thing that puts them above it for me is that the star players on, like take Jimmy Butler out of it for the Heat. The star players on the Celtics, unlike the star players for the Heat and the consistent players, are good at both things. Like maybe not Kemba Walker, he's not the best defender. But Jason Tatum is great defensively and offensively. Jaylen Brown is amazing defensively, but still awesome offensively. Even Gordon Hayward, when he comes back, he's expected to come back or Game 3 or 4, can do both. Like he tries on defense. And then Marcus Smart is a pit bull on defense, but he's been offensively really good this playoffs, which is hilarious to see. So like you have this depth on the Heat side, but a lot of their depth is situational. So you have Goran Dragic, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, who are great offensively, but they're liabilities on defense a little bit. And then you have depth like Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, who are great defensively, but they're not going to put up 20 points. So with the Heat, you have to pick what you want to do. If you're not getting stops, you have to put in your wing scorers and get some more points. But if you're trying to get stops, you got to sacrifice some offense for that. With the Celtics, they really don't have to sacrifice that. Like, Kemba's really the only player who is just like bad on one side of the ball, like just not good defensively. But when you have all their other wing defenders like Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, like you can cover up for one guy's defensive mistakes. And that's why I have the Celtics winning, just because even though as it becomes a 4-point game, but yeah, I just think they have
I jinxed too soon.
not more depth, but just more top line talent that's good on both ends. I do think though, like one of my things to watch was Bam Adebayo as he dunks against whoever the Celtics center they throw at him is, either Tice or Williams, just because Bam Adebayo is so dynamic that, yeah, you almost want like a shutdown rimmed protector against him, but they don't really have that. I liked what Williams did earlier against him. Like I thought he was holding his own for a young guy, but yeah, I think it'll be the Celtics though. I mean, it's kind of, I don't want to say a homer pick because I'm not from Boston, but they're my number 2 team in the league, so I really want to see them win. But yeah, I think the Celtics are gonna have too much top end talent, especially once Gordon Hayward gets back. If the Miami Heat don't win every game until he gets back, they're not gonna have a chance. I think once he gets back, depending on how they use him, that's gonna be a really tough one. So yeah, we all picked the Celtics, so we all have I think we all have a very classic Lakers-Celtics finals. So obviously we're a round away from there, 2 7-game series away from there. But if that's how it plays out, I mean, again, same question I've asked about the other 2 series. Like, what do you guys think? What are you excited for with that? What are you looking for, and who do you have winning?
Oh, let's see. Thinking ahead, I want to stick with the Lakers again, just because I'm not going to pick against LeBron in a series just yet. Again, I don't think the Celtics either have an answer for AD either. But in the same sense, if the Lakers role players don't come to play and kind of get overshadowed by Boston, who, again, playing freely, not a big crowd, not as much hype going into the finals, inside the bubble, get it going, it could be a pretty interesting series. If not, definitely go the distance. Again, I'll stick with the Lakers, but I think they definitely go 7.
Yeah, I would probably stick with the Lakers. I just think they're not going to have an answer for AD, and LeBron's going to be able to really play off of AD and just do LeBron things. And he'll just take over periods of time. He'll take over a half a quarter. He'll take over a whole quarter. And if they can just play like that together, the Celtics just don't have the Clippers, in my opinion, have they can stick Kawhi on LeBron. They can do something like that and that matchup to maybe at least slow him down. No team has an answer for AD, so you just go let him get his and try to slow down everybody else. And like I said, the Lakers' deficiency is going to be, beyond LeBron, beyond AD. Where do you go get your other points? Where do you go get your other contributions? Obviously, Rajon Rondo's been awesome these playoffs, but he's got deficiencies, that well-documented deficiencies for, throughout his whole career. And, Kuzma's been great, but, is he really going to be able to do that, in for 7 games or however many games against the Celtics? I don't know. So like I said, I wouldn't be really surprised if the Celtics can, win a few games, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers role players put it all together for 4 or 5 games in a row. They could pretty much dominate any team. And if that happens, then it's probably not going to be that competitive of a series, in my opinion. So I'd say Lakers in 6.
Another intriguing thing that, again, taking it back to the Eastern Conference Finals, is just the coaching matchup, too, with Spoelstra.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to think of the Celtics. Brad Stevens. Yeah. And then also, too, carrying it into the final, seeing what their game plan would be going against AD and LeBron and basically the rest of the crew is, do you let those two get theirs and, hope that the role players don't catch
tight, yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting and intriguing thing to look at too, is this two coaches that will be coming, or one of the coaches that coming out of the Eastern Conference should have a pretty interesting game plan going against either the Lakers, who stacked up front with LeBron and AD, or the Clippers, who still have Kawhi and playoff P or pandemic P, whatever you want to call him.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think even to that extent, like one thing I had, so I don't know if it was ESPN or the Athletic, but a matchup with the Heat and Celtics is their GMs, Danny Ainge and Pat Riley, front office guys. Like how they've built their two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, with the Heat, it kind of just came together to be this. They're getting great, hopefully not 1 year flash in the pan performances from a lot of their guys, but who knows? You always run that risk with younger guys, and with Bam didn't win Most Improved Player, but should have. And then Danny Ainge, through draft stock, through not giving players a second contract until this year with Jaylen Brown, like just building a team to do this, and they still, both of these teams' windows are starting now. Like they're not at the end of their window like a LeBron-led team would be, or even like the Rockets would be, or the Clippers. Like they're kind of in their window now. The Heat and the Boston Celtics, they are starting their windows now. They're going to be incredible and probably have hopefully a couple more Eastern Conference Final showdowns in the next 5 years. So, but yeah, we'll swing it back to you, Joel, for what would you think of the Celtics-Lakers finals, and what you'd be hoping to get out of a series like that, while two nuns are praying in the stands at the game right now on the screen. We'll see it in a sec.
Yeah, I mean, they played each other already this season twice, and they split. So the Celtics have proven they can handle the Lakers. Granted, it was a different time. It was January 20 and February 23. But I think the Lakers, just on paper, they look strong. And I think, over the course of, even if it goes to 7 games, it's a tall order, I think, for the Celtics to handle that. So I'm standing by the Lakers, and I think they can win in 6.
Yeah. Well, I think the Lakers will win, but just to be different, I'm going to pick the Celtics. I think, again, I said, their window is starting now. They're still a young team. They're still they went through the whole Kyrie situation. They just got rid of Al Horford last year. He left. I guess they didn't get rid of him, but they're still young. Jason Tatum's 22. Jaylen Brown's 23. They're cornerstone guys. They're still developing. They still have a lot of young people, even from last year's draft, like Grant Williams, Carson Edwards, Romeo Langford. But I think one of the biggest things with the Celtics-Lakers series is that something that Lakers fans don't like talking about is the Lakers shoot the 3 ball terribly. Like they did all year. They were gosh, I put it in my write-up, but 28th in the league in 3-point percentage. Just not good. They've been doing better in the bubble for sure. But if they can't make threes, the Celtics can hone in on the inside the arc defense, and that's where the Celtics dominate. If they can just clog the lane and keep you guys from getting in there, and they don't have to stop AD, but if they can stop the ball from getting to him, I mean that's the best way to stop him. You can't, once the ball's in his hands, he's going to dunk Daniel Tice into the floor. But if they can stop him from getting the ball 20 times a game, they have windows. They have opportunities. Their depth is better in my mind. Gordon Hayward will hopefully be in and conditioned by that point and ready to play at that level. But yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to bet against LeBron. But another part of that is that even with the youth that the Celtics have, a handful of these players have been to Eastern Conference Finals before. They've been to this point as much as these playoffs are different from any other we've ever had, they've been to this point in the season before. Besides Rondo and LeBron, maybe a bench player, but their contributing players haven't been to this point. Even the point they're going to be at when they start on Friday. Anthony Davis hasn't been that far. Kyle Kuzma, obviously, he's never made the playoffs. Danny Green, I don't think has made it this far. I think he's made it to conference finals once. But a lot of those guys haven't made it this far and are young and the way you talk about Young, like Young without the experience, unlike the Boston Celtics, who they have their hands in some conference finals already. So I think Jaylen Brown's, been in 3 in his first 4 years. So they kind of know what it takes to at least be in the conference finals, which, I mean, yeah, it's not championship experience, but the Lakers have even less. So I think that could be a dynamic to look at too. And Don, like you were saying, Brad Stevens is the far superior coach in that matchup. Like I just think he's a better game planner and he's a better in-game adjuster. So it would be an incredible series, I think. It'd be an incredible series either way with the Lakers. Whichever one of these 2 Eastern Conference teams makes it. I don't think it's going to be a bad series either way. But my head says take the Lakers, but I'll be different and take the Celtics. So with that, we were the last thing I wanted to bring up was the last NBA award that hasn't been picked yet. So they've been kind of picking them throughout the playoffs instead of doing one big show. So we know everything except for the All-NBA teams and the MVP. So we don't need to go through 15 people and decipher all these All-NBA teams. But the finalists for MVP are James Harden, LeBron James, and Giannis. So who do you guys think is going to win that award?
I'm going to go with LeBron. Like I said, got the Lakers first in the West. I know Giannis did that too with the Bucks. But again, looking at the stats, I think LeBron led the league in assists, and it was well over 10 per game. So again, he kind of put the team on his back, did his thing, was, I think, the most dominant player anyways during the course of the season, before and after the bubble, and then even through the playoffs. Again, I think the NBA just makes another awkward mistake if they award Giannis the NBA MVP and the award presentation he's sitting at home because he's knocked out the playoffs. So I think they got to go with LeBron, give him his justice, and like I said, give him his credit.
I think they should do that. I just don't think they will. So I think it's the thing, like, they've talked about it before, like LeBron is so consistently good that people just take it for granted. And when they see a new name on there or, somebody who was trendy that year, that's who they want to take. So, LeBron and Harden have been there kind of. I don't think Harden has any chance. I think it's pretty much between LeBron and Giannis. No really discredit to Harden. I just don't think he's nearly as good as those two. And I just think they're going to award it to Giannis just because, like I said, I think people just get used to LeBron being there, and they're like, oh, okay, like he's already won it. There's no reason, we'll give it to Giannis. He had an incredible year. Look at what he did. Yeah, he did have an incredible year, but like LeBron's year statistically was better, and from a team standpoint, even if you're just looking at regular season, was just as good as Giannis, and that's. In my opinion, he should win the award, but I think they're probably going to give it to Giannis just because of the classic. Oh, he's new. It's a thing that just happens with this award.
That's tough too to have the back-to-back, and like I said, the second one not be as as dominating as you think, like a back-to-back MVP.
Right. It's like, look, man, he's still like the best player in the NBA, so just give him the award. Like if he's the best player, then he deserves the award, and that's how it should go. But that's just not how it is. For some reason. So
yeah, they always play the shoulda, woulda, what they should do, but I'm kind of on the same page as Don. I actually think that they do give it to LeBron. I think LeBron showed another part of the MVP talent that he is. And I think that name just rings in people's head. I mean, you said that they take him for granted sometimes too, so I kind of get that, but LeBron, like Don mentioned even earlier, like whether he's now getting 10 assists a game or he's getting all the rebounds and stuff now too. It's not all about the points per game that usually we think of LeBron for. So I think LeBron's just showing just another part of who he is as an all-around athlete or a basketball player. And I think not trying to – it's hard because I know that they're not supposed to account for what they've done in the playoffs. And, they've already voted on it. So there's a little bit of me that does think it could go to Giannis. But they might be like, yeah, Giannis already got Defense Player of the Year. He's got an award. He's got some hardware now. Let's give it to LeBron. So I don't know. I think it's really close. but I think I'm going to go with LeBron. Personally.
That's another thing too, like the back-to-back. So and then you have another year looking, 20 years from now, you look back in the history books and you're like, oh, this guy won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. Like, wow, that must be like one of the best seasons ever. And you kind of look back and you're like, well, it doesn't really stick out. He probably had a better year last year, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little like the 73-9 Warriors, where it's like, man, that's incredible. But then they they had a 3-1 on them. So, like, they came back from 3-1. So, I do think it'll be Giannis, though. I was trying to look it up, but I could only find a story about someone talking about voting. So a woman on ESPN did an interview saying who she voted for on August 9. So the votes were definitely in by then. I would assume they would have been in a little earlier than that because I don't think she voted and then went on TV right after that. One of the things she said, though, it was a little controversial. She said she voted for LeBron because she's a very narrative-based voter, because a lot of people in the media were talking about, maybe Giannis has more points and his team's more successful, but LeBron's 35 years old. I don't think it matters how old a player is, whether how good they are. Like, you're not going to give Tom Brady an MVP because he's 42. But I just think Giannis had the better regular season, and that's really what they go on. That's why they do the voting so early, just so they don't have these things kind of weighing on them. So a lot of people maybe now would have voted for LeBron who are on the fence, but be seeing what happened to Giannis and seeing the dominance of LeBron in the playoffs. But I think the thing is, LeBron put up incredible regular season numbers, but he doesn't really care about winning the MVP. Like, that's why he didn't go out and average 30 points. He wants to, he's in the last 5 years of his career and he wants to win championships. That's what he wants to do. So he's not going to score. Can't remember. I don't think he averaged over 20 in the regular season points, but now in the playoffs, he's averaging more. He's doing better. He's playing harder. He's playing better defense. That's a big thing, of Giannis's side. He's the best. They named him the best defensive player in the league. So you got to look at that side of the ball too. And talking about MVP, because it's not just offense. That's why James Harden isn't winning it. If it was just offense, it'd be James Harden every year. But I don't know. I think they look at both sides of it, and I think they're going to go with Giannis to give him back-to-back and DPOY and MVP in the same year. But it's going to be a really awkward – well, they're not doing acceptance speeches, but it would be a very awkward acceptance speech if he just got bounced and missed the last 2 games his team played in the playoffs. But I think they give it to him, but I do think it's going to be a really close vote. I would not be surprised either way. Yeah, well, unless anybody else has some more NBA stuff, that's all I had written down. I mean, I think I'm incredibly excited for both conference final series. I think I'm more excited if it's LA versus LA, and just seeing those two teams, those juggernauts in that division go at it. Because, like I said, I think the Nuggets will be more spent than the Clippers coming into this one and have kind of reached their peak. Okay, Miami just went up by a point. So, sorry, Joel. I know you're behind me, but Jimmy,
I'm a little behind too.
Come on, Fire Stick.
But yeah, I'm excited for both series. I think you're not going to watch a bad game in either conference final. But yeah, unless anybody else has anything to talk about, I mean, that kind of wraps it up.
I know the NBA draft is a month and a day away. I saw it's on October 16. I've only looked at a couple of the top candidates, and I obviously, being a Pistons fan and knowing we should have gotten a top 3 pick, and stupid draft lottery ruined it once again.
There was some shenanigans where a team got the 8th pick, so that meant that Chicago and Charlotte both got in the top 4. I was watching them pick the top 10, and they were like, oh, well, that means they're in the top 4. And I'm like, wait, why?
It's almost too math involved in it now.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's normal draft based on record, and that should be pretty simple, I think. I don't understand the concept of a lottery and why it even started in the first place.
Well, that happened to the Red Wings too. Every year they get the 5th or 6th pick when they should. They were the worst, one of the worst hockey teams in history this past year, and they got I forget which pick, but I think the 3rd or 4th or the 4th pick maybe. I don't know.
Yep.
But terrible.
Pretty terrible.
Yeah, and like the first pick is a pretty elite guy too that could have really helped the franchise. He's like a animus number 1 pick.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think in the NBA draft, it's basically it's Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and
Killian Hayes. Well, Killian Hayes is in that conversation too.
Yeah. But who has the first pick? Is it
T-Wolves?
The Timberwolves. I mean, they don't need James Wiseman because they have Karl Anthony Towns. I think they go Anthony Edwards. But I really the NBA, if you look at free agency the past couple of years, people go where their friends are. And the Timberwolves really want to complete the trio of D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, and Devin Booker. Phoenix should never give up Devin Booker. They should keep him as a treasure, even though he deserves way better. But I wouldn't be surprised if they traded the number 1 pick for him and tried to get those 3 guys together and
that would be an interesting
in their rebuild. But yeah, I think that they pick Anthony Edwards first overall. I think if the Warriors keep their pick, they're going to go with Wiseman, or at least they should, and then whoever number 3 is goes with LaMelo. But I don't know.
I mean, it's guard heavy for me. I personally have Killian Hayes and Edwards and LaMelo Ball as the top 3 guys, but they're all guards. It's just, I guess, who do they believe has the most upside? So I mean, we didn't get to see like any March Madness to see what. Yeah, now you're way ahead of me. Don't celebrate. You're ruining it.
Sorry. I won't say what happens.
Well, now I'm just gonna watch. There's 6 seconds left. 5 seconds left.
Oh, Tatum
Shoots this way too early. He could have got it much better.
Bomb.
Wow.
What a game.
What a game. All right.
It's tied. It's overtime.
Yeah. So there's gonna be so many of this, but I don't know. It's gonna be whoever the Timberwolves believe is gonna be the most NBA ready, I think. And some of these guys, Killian Hayes is supposed to be really good, and he's a dynamic player, but from France, he's definitely raw in some technical areas. But LaMelo Ball, it's just running on the name. And do you really want the headache of a dad around? I don't know, man. Anthony Edwards would be the guy I'd probably go with. But
yep.
I don't know. It's still a month away. We're going to see way more come up about it because the NBA draft isn't like the NFL draft where you can just prep that much in advance. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of too who falls to Detroit. Because, like I said, it's pretty top-heavy. You have those 3 guys that are, 1, 2, 3 talent-wise. But then there's probably about 4 or 5, maybe 6 guys that, again, are kind of toss-ups. Like, who are you going to take a risk on? Who do you think can outfit your system the most? And then, Pistons kind of getting screwed over on their draft pick, kind of are going to just have to wait and see which one doesn't get picked. And if it fits with them, do they take that best available guy, or do they have someone kind of waiting in the lurks? Kind of someone for me on the outside is Cole Anthony from UNC.
Yeah,
I know the Pistons really need a point guard. They need some sort of foundation, something. And I think he's definitely going to be available there. I think they could even trade back a little bit to get him.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of a sleeper pick who had a pretty bad year at UNC, but has the pedigree.
He got hurt too. Yeah, he was starting off. He was averaging like 22 to 25 a game. He's going off, and then he got hurt, and then he came back, and they were that UNC team was bad, so he had to kind of carry him. But yeah, that'd be an interesting pick.
So I'm looking at a mock draft from the Ringer. A guy named Kevin O'Connor. Don't know anything about him, but it's Anthony Edwards going 1. It actually has a guy named Denny Avdija from Maccabi Tel Aviv in Israel going to the Warriors at 2.
Supposed to be a pretty good wing player.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of pretty high on him. So, the Hornets going with LaMelo, Bulls going with James Wiseman, Cleveland going with Isaac Okoro, Obi Toppin to Atlanta, and then all the way at 7 is Killian Hayes for the Detroit Pistons.
Wow.
I would take that.
I would take that in a heartbeat for sure.
I like Obi Toppin. I personally like Obi Toppin a lot, though.
Well, I think
if the Pistons got Obi, that would be kind of cool. That guy is fun to watch.
Well, I think with this draft, like different than last year and maybe the year before, like you don't have, and someone will be a star out of this draft. Every draft has a couple stars, but you don't really have that standout superstar where you look at the paper and you're like, oh, this guy's going to be amazing. Like last year you had Zion and Ja, everyone was like, oh, they're going to be great no matter what. Before that, you had Luka Doncic, you had Trae Young, who people were just like, whoa, these guys are going to be good. But you don't really have that this year. And that's why I think I could see the number 1 and even number 2 teams trading down. Just because I don't think there's much different between picks 2 and 5. It depends who you want out of. If you really want Anthony Edwards, then you got to go number 1 overall because someone might pick him at 2. But if you want James Wiseman, you could probably get him at 4 or 5. I think I'd be pretty high, more likely that the Warriors will be the one to trade, depending on what someone gives them. Obviously, it's the number 2 pick, but it's a little less valuable than some other years. So I think, like I said, Timberwolves would love to trade it for Devin Booker, but it's not it's not last year's pick where Zion Williamson for Devin Booker, a team probably takes that 4 out of 5 times. But this year, Anthony Edwards for Devin Booker or for another star player, you're probably not going to get that. But yeah, I think the Pistons, even though they're down at 7, they could still, depending on who falls to them, if they stay at 7, they could get a really quality player.
And at least they have a GM for this draft.
Yeah, true. That's very true. That does help, I feel like. Probably.
Well, I think with the Pistons, they're starting to see their window and their rebuild is starting to take shape more. You have Sekou, you have, gosh, I forget what that big man's name is, but
Christian Wood.
Christian Wood, yeah, they have Christian Wood. Really, they got rid of Andre Drummond. All they have to do really is, it sucks, but you either have to let that $40 million contract with Blake Griffin expire in 2 years, or you got to try to move on from him, which with his injury over the past couple of years doesn't look like it's going to happen. But it looks like they're setting up for between the next 5 and 10 years down the line where they're going to be good. So hopefully they make a pick that isn't trying to be the most NBA ready and is the most upside, because I think that's out of all those teams at the top, some of them are going to want, some of them's window is a lot sooner than that. I think the Bulls, they want to be competitive now. The Hornets want to be competitive soon. Even the Timberwolves, they want to be competitive really soon with Cat. But the Pistons, they have time. So they got to take, even if it's someone younger, even if it's a little bit of a project, they kind of got to do just another Sekou Demboya, just pick a young guy who might not even play this year, but who has all the raw talent and the skills that you could want.
Yep, I'd agree.
Yeah, so Don, just give us a reason why people need to go check out the Buskard Group. And we're seeing a lot of upside already. The guy talks about they talk about basketball. That's the reason to go see the Buskard Group.
Yeah.
But
not sports and basketball, but main focus is real estate. We got a lot of knowledge agents here. Again, I'm one of the newer people on the team, and the reason that I joined the team was because I saw how the other agents were in the office and their detail to client service and how they treat their clients and get the deals done. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for me to hop on board too and try to learn from the best. And then, like I said, ever since joining the team, it's been nothing but good. Learning as much as I can here, and again, trying to just emulate what I'm learning from the more veteran agents and transferring that over to my clients, so that, again, even though I'm new in the game, I have a wealth of knowledge and have the resource of the team behind me. And like I said, it's rare to find a team that's as good as this and well connected. So like I said, I'm happy to be part of the team, and said I know they got my back and I got their back, and said just like in sports, you need that. You can't do it on your own. So like I said, my background in sports definitely led me into, okay, well, which team can I fit with? And like I said, I feel like I made the great decision, and I said try to carry that over to my clients too.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on, man. Great insight with the NBA, and look forward to maybe talking to you again about what you saw in the championship and the finals, and maybe even after the draft and how it went, and what you expect from next season. Hopefully, Lord willing, no COVID hanging around. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Feel free to invite me back anytime. It was a lot of fun. Always great to chat a little bit of basketball, and like I said, especially right now with everything going on. We're in the midst of, like I said, a lot of fun stuff. You got NBA playoffs, NFL just started. So, yeah, sports are back, and said, it's a fun time.
Yeah, appreciate it, Don. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
thanks.
problem.
Oh, that was definitely. He's got some insight, man. That was fun.
So, yep, he was the ringer. I like that. We brought him in.
Yeah. Oh, good grief. Well,
Oh, that was good.
yeah. So nice job leading that too, Isaiah. You're killing it. You guys could take my job for sure.
I need the Celtics to kill it right now because I don't like this.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to distract ourselves away from the NBA as much as possible, even though there's a good game on our hands. But the NFL season did just kick off. And week one, was there some surprises with players, namely good and bad surprises, and teams, good and bad? Like, what did you guys that really surprised you in week one already?
I mean, we'll start with the Lions. Adrian Peterson was a lot better early than I thought he would be.
Mhm.
I really thought that he had a chance to be, in certain games, especially like a lead back when they picked him up. But I just didn't think we'd see it week one against a pretty good defense. Bears are pretty solid.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit better known for the pass rush right now, but I mean they're a good run defense too. So he was explosive at times, and it was really cool to see. For a guy his age, kind of show some flashes of what he's been in the past. And he showed flashes in Washington. I shouldn't say that he that was the most incredible thing ever, so surprising. But,
Yeah.
For not really being with a team for very long and showing up like that, it was really cool to see, and hopefully they can stick with that, even though, like we kind of talked about at the beginning of the podcast, it was a disappointing game overall for the Lions. So.
Yeah,
I was pretty surprised and impressed with the Patriots and Cam Newton. They just came out of the gate like the Patriots. You know what I mean? Like even with a new quarterback, it's just like, oh hey, we're just gonna win this game real quick. Like we're gonna grind you guys out. Cam Newton ran a lot more than I expected him to.
Yeah, way more than I thought.
the first Patriots quarterback to rush over 70 yards since 97, I think I saw.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, we've had Tom Brady forever. So
Yeah. But he must be really healthy if they're having him run that much. And it's just crazy. You forget him being out for a year, but he's just he's so big. He's so big compared to all these people. He just kind of as much as a quarterback can, he kind of runs through people. He just pushes some people away and gains a couple extra yards and looked really good. I think the Washington Redskins defense surprised me a bit too. They came back in that game, but it really wasn't their offense; it was their defense.
8 sacks against Carson Wentz, man.
Yeah, that defensive line is legit. We ranked him. I'm pretty sure we ranked him really high.
I think first or second. Yeah, it was between them and the 49ers, though.
But that's legit. They're young, but that's amazing. They're really good. But yeah, and then it was like you said when we started the show, Ben. It was not surprising that the Lions blew it, but it was surprising how they blew it. So
disaster, stupid.
I think
so stupid.
you guys have talked about players that in a season like this, an unprecedented season like this, we're going to see players that maybe were undrafted free agents or whatever get an opportunity to make a statement. Like Philip Lindsay, I think you guys specifically named, and I think James Robinson for the surprising Jacksonville Jaguars could be one of those guys. I listed the Jaguars and the Rams and the Cardinals win over the 49ers, and then obviously the football team to beat the Eagles. This is all stuff that I didn't expect either of these teams to win. And I think it was the first in the last 15 seasons, there were only 12 upsets of a 5.5 point underdog in week one. Mm-hmm. There's only been 4 of them in the last 5 seasons completely. There were already 3 just this week one. So 2020 is wild. 2020 is still unprecedented. Mm-hmm. And I think like you said, there's going to be these players we're seeing teams left and right lose pretty key players and go to IR right off the bat. Just because not the same kind of prep. Like I said, you're playing training camp against your buddies pretty much. They're not gonna take your legs out. You're playing against other teams that are going for the same Lombardi trophy as you. They're gonna be playing a little bit harder. So Isaiah's definitely getting a little bit excited.
Sorry.
NFL is no longer relevant.
No. I was also surprised a bit by Aaron Rodgers. Came out really strong.
Unreal.
4 touchdowns, like looked just really good. Looked like he's kind of on the FU tour. He doesn't care if they drafted a new quarterback. He doesn't care who his coach is. He doesn't care if he hasn't talked to his family in 10 years. He's just taking names. So I hope that doesn't persist because I don't want the Packers to be that good. But yeah, he surprised me. And but I did put out my most valuable player of week 1, even though Aaron Rodgers looked really good. Russell Wilson just looked
Pour it up.
I mean, put on an MVP performance.
He was the top fantasy football scorer this
yeah,
season.
like 4 touchdowns also, but just like what was he 31 for 35? Like ridiculous.
Yep.
That was
Yeah,
like Gardner Minshew level, not missing passes. 19.
So I was going to talk about Minshew for a minute as sort of a surprise. I actually think he could be a pretty competent NFL quarterback. He's got some weapons actually at Jacksonville. I like DJ Chark. I think that's a good weapon. He likes DJ Chark a lot, and I really was pretty surprised by Minshew's performance. 16 for 17 is pretty nuts. 3 touchdowns obviously was good. But I don't think that's always going to be, evident of every week how he's going to perform. But I was pretty surprised by the Jaguars as a full team. I mean, I did not expect them to win, obviously. So,
like everyone had a lot of teams like tanking. Like they were like, oh, they're going to tank for Trevor Lawrence. They're going to tank. And like all those teams that people were like, oh, they're going to tank. Like the Patriots won the game. Washington, football team won. The Jacksonville Jaguars won. Like all these teams where you're like, oh, they're just gonna suck all year and like whatever. But like they all looked good. I mean, they looked. I don't think it's gonna last, but all those teams looked pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely a lot of.
Joe Burrow even looked pretty solid.
I saw that. Too, yeah, I don't know. The knees didn't look so rough, but even his replacement there for the Rams, Malcolm Brown had a pretty decent game.
Yep.
So
the Rams. I mean. That was pretty surprising too. Maybe it's just that they're in a new stadium and they're all jacked up, but yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of surprises just because this is just an unprecedented year. Just teams have to prep completely differently, so it could be more reliant on conditioning your coach and head coaching and just planning around what you can't know without preseason prep or training camp scrimmages. Things have just been different this year. So there's going to be a lot of adjustments on coach, and I think that's going to be a lot of the reason behind success. So I don't know. I dug up some pretty unique stats that I definitely just want to kind of quick rattle off before we get to Ben's Michigan quiz. But I already mentioned the 5.5 point underdog. There's already 3 this year and only like 4 in the whole last 5 years. But I also wanted to add that the Lions became just the 4th team since 2006 to blow a 17-plus point lead entering the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
So teams' records in that span were 779 and 3. So if you go further back since the merger, 2,760 teams have led a game by 17-plus points entering the 4th quarter. The Lions are the 29th to lose out of those nearly 3,000 games. It's just
that's just so hard that's what we were just talking about at the beginning. Like that's so hard to do when you're up 3 scores. Like you have to like almost intentionally sabotage yourselves. It's so bad. Like
you have to be in a sports movie for that to happen. Like you have to have their like number 1 quarterback drop dead in the 1st quarter and come back in the 4th quarter.
Exactly.
That's the only way that happens. Like
gosh. There's so many frustrating ones because I read this for more Lions pain. If you guys are interested in excruciating pain,
bring it on.
After last night's 16-14 loss, the Broncos have lost 4 games under Vic Fangio where they held a lead with 30 seconds remaining. The Lions are the only other team since the start of last season with multiple losses in those situations. So it didn't really blow Isaiah's mind because the basketball game is on. I'm going to keep alluding to that.
Yeah, sorry. It was the last play. Watch this.
Ooh, kill him.
Wow.
Oh, that's game. That's game. Well, yeah. So the Vic Fangio has even had more worse luck with 4 losses already in this last 2 years, with leads with 30 seconds or less that are gone. So only Matt Patricia is won multiple losses in those situations. Another Lions stat, which is a little more maybe encouraging, I guess. Adrian Peterson touched the ball 17 of his 24 carries, or 24 of his 17 of his 24 snaps. That's 81% of his snaps that he touched the ball. That's the highest of any skill position player with 20 or more snaps this week.
I think they should have even given the ball more, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can't complain about the snaps that he got necessarily though, because like he's barely been with the team.
He doesn't know the full playbook.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm sitting there going, just run Peterson, whatever. But I'm like, he probably only knows like 8 plays. So why are we?
He ran a couple dives, and that's him finding the hole. That's what it
Right.
was.
So, I don't know. It's just, I hope to see him. I mean, he proved that he can at least, I don't think he's going to be a 25 carry or 25 carry a game player right now, but you could give him the ball 15 times a game and maybe even 20 and see what he does. So,
yeah, I hope he keeps getting the ball more. He definitely made an impact.
Yep.
I also have here that Ben Roethlisberger had 3 more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley.
Barkley, yeah. Had
So,
9 and Barkley had 6, right? Something like that?
Yeah, and Big Ben had 9. And so Barkley's 6 yards are actually tied for the second fewest by a player with 15-plus carries in the Super Bowl era. So you can go back to 1997 when the Dolphins had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So that goes back a while. But he had on 15 carries 4 yards. That's really bad. That's really bad. And Saquon Barkley of all. So I think that says more about the Steelers' rush defense.
Steelers are not. They're going to be tough. I'm telling you, they're going to be.
They're deep, very stout and very fast.
Yes.
So just because we know who Saquon Barkley is, obviously, so just the fact that the Steelers did that to him is very impressive. A sad stat for Tom Brady: he is the first quarterback to throw a pick 6 in 3 consecutive starts, and that is since Matt Schaub and Blaine Gabbert. So that's not great company.
No, it's not great.
Well, and I think like we talked about, I think a lot of these older guys, it's kind of rough on starting this season without training camp and preseason. Like even Drew Brees had not a good game. Like
no,
some of these, like Phillip Rivers, same thing. Like they didn't play well. Like some of these older guys just don't have the conditioning under them yet, and they really need it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think especially with a guy like Brady going to a new team, he could have used a couple quarters every preseason game to kind of work out some of the kinks and kind of figure some stuff out. And that I think that really certainly would have helped him. And I think you would have seen him probably play a little more than he's previously played in some of the preseason games this year, just to work out some of the kinks for the receivers and try to figure out exactly what what they need to do, and so they're on the same page by week 1. By the time week 1 comes around, so it might take a few weeks for the Bucs to figure it out. We'll see.
I think they still are a playoff team. I think they played one of the best defenses in the league. I was talking about it before the show. The Bucs are still a playoff team in my opinion.
Oh no doubt. I don't think it's even remotely. I mean, they put together some drives too, and you can see the potential there once they kind of put it all together. Like that first drive of that they had, when they scored the touchdown was impressive. And, I just think if they get any semblance of a run game too this year, they're going to be pretty tough to stop. So we'll see.
I mean, they looked like they had a somewhat confident run game.
It was just
sporadic. They had some success.
Yeah, it was sporadic. Ronald Jones had it was okay.
He was good. He was good catching the ball out of the backfield.
Brady
Fournette was able to push for 7 yards on some carries, and then he got brought back 3 yards. So there's a couple weird runs with them. But I also have here Russell Wilson did join Steve Young to become the only 2 quarterbacks in the NFL history with 30,000 pass yards and 4,000 rush yards in their career. So I think obviously Russell Wilson's gonna get finish with more rush yards in his career. Probably more pass yards. It could be passing even in pass yards. So he'll hold the stat at some point.
I don't know if it'll happen all the way, but Russell Wilson could be a dark horse for MVP. I mean, he kind of was last year. If they just if they come in first place in that division and he is like head and shoulders above anyone else for being the reason for that. Like he come in like top 5 in voting last year. Like
Yeah.
it could happen again.
His stats back it up. I mean, he's pretty consistently dominant. I mean, for the most part, he's pretty much as good as it gets. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But I mean, obviously, if he plays like he did last week, yeah. But
Yeah, he'll run away with it if he plays like he does that every week like that.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be better than Mahomes last year. So
Yeah, for sure. I also have a couple more here. The Colts are the 13th team since 1940 to have 445 plus yards, 0 punts, and still lose the game.
Fun.
that's,
I mean, the
Rams, on
Rams,
that defense.
yeah, the Rams pulled some surprises, but
Did
What did you? Okay, so the big
that
question.
was the Jaguars the Colts played. Who am I talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big question is,
Jags.
what do you think of the LA Rams' new uniforms?
They're pointless. They're bland. what's
I don't
going on?
even like the Falcons' new uniforms. I don't think anyone's really hit on their new uniforms, to be honest.
Well,
I think
mean,
the Chargers are strong.
Chargers are decent.
I like
I don't mind the Chargers, but like the Rams, I was like, what are you trying to do here? Like what?
Yeah. I like the Rams. I think the helmet's cool, but the rest of it is bad. But no, those Chargers with
The helmet's cool. Yeah.
the Chargers all dark blue with like the outline of the lightning bolt. They haven't worn.
Yeah,
them.
I forgot that they got new ones. Yeah, those are pretty sweet. But let's see, I got 2 more. So the Giants had a 19-play drive in the third quarter last night, and it was the longest since 1999 that resulted in a turnover. So a 19-play drive that resulted in a turnover.
There was no. I saw a tweet after the end of that drive, and they're like, that was the ugliest, longest, stupidest drive I've ever seen, and the only way it could have ended was with an interception in the end zone. It was absurd.
That is so many plays.
Yeah.
So here was a stat of from the college football weekend last weekend. I think this was not this past week, but the week before. Army had a 19-play, 99-yard drive that lasted for 12 minutes and 26 seconds.
Yeah, they didn't throw the ball once, probably.
They just love the clock.
But can you imagine, like, you take up an entire quarter, 19 plays, 99 yards, like.
Yeah.
That's demoralizing for the other team.
And I think it just said they went up 42-0 at the end of the drive.
Oh my goodness. Well, the first week they played, they ran for like 522 yards. Didn't throw one pass at all.
Yep. Gosh, they played Michigan last year, and they threw the ball like 7 times and completed 3 of them.
And they got intercepted twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the game. It was not fun.
This guy ended up passing Emmitt Smith for the most regular season games played by a running back in NFL history.
Ooh,
Really?
Frank Gore.
227, Frank Gore. Yep. And then
Nice.
I have to finish. Mitch Trubisky had 3+ touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a fourth quarter comeback. That is only the 4th Bears quarterback to do it since 1950.
Wow. Yeah, I believe it.
I mean, I think it would. I mean, if I could think of any.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all that often anyway, but yeah, that they haven't really had great quarterback play for the most part.
I think the last one was they had Jay Cutler in 2014 actually do it, and then Eric Kramer in '95.
Okay.
And then back then, you're just probably hitting like the Luckmans and George Blondas of the world or something.
Mm-hmm. Harbaugh might have done it once.
Yeah. So that is what I got for the NFL. So I'm ready to take this quiz, dude.
All right.
Yeah. So I will say my last thing for the NFL, I did have a least valuable player, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, he was terrible.
Trash.
I would say DeAndre Swift, but
Well, yeah.
He doesn't make you least valuable.
how about Steven Gostkowski?
Also, how about Matt Prater? He should have
No
made.
one cares about kickers and punters.
He kicked the game when it mattered. That's for sure. So I think that saved him.
No,
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield and the Browns just absolutely tragic. I know you're playing the Ravens, but come on.
Yeah, that was a bad showing.
I expected
You're like,
a little
the
more.
Ravens are amazing. It's okay. Well, I expect you to lose, but you gotta, do
I
something.
expected more of like a 34-17 game though. Not
Yeah, maybe 34-21. They score a late
26
touchdown.
points.
Something.
What an incompetent game.
I did put officially maybe I'll keep a tracker, but Matt Patricia is officially on the hot seat. So
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
I
I don't
going to
disagree.
blame COVID, even though every team is dealing with it. And they're going to say, no, we didn't get the proper training we needed. I got to keep him one more year, even if he wins 3. Like, good grief.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to have a hard time putting a lot of faith in this organization right now. If they do not fire them, even if they start out 0-4 at the bye week and they're not fired, I lost faith in this organization.
Yeah. I mean, the game like that game is a game that gets you fired. Obviously, you're not going to fire him after week 1, but
Yeah.
that a game like that gets you fired. That stacks up, and you've got enough of those games, and that's how you get fired right there in the NFL. So
official. I'll keep track, but officially to start out after week 1, Matt Patricia, Dan Quinn, Vic Fangio, Adam Gase, all in the hot seat.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Who did we say? Freddie Kitchens. He's probably borderline, but we'll see. We'll see if he gets placed there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I think we revisit it after week 2 or 3, and that'll make. I mean, we can revisit after every week if we want to, but
We'll revisit it.
Make a determination at that point. So, all right, you ready?
Lay it down. Let's get these.
All right, we got 10 questions, all multiple choice. Some of them are going to be pretty tricky, I bet. So, all right, number 1. As you guys know, Michigan Stadium, the big house, biggest capacity in college football.
All right.
Most fans. So, when was the last time Michigan Stadium had a game attendance of less than 100,000 people? A, October 1975. B, September 1988. C, November 1994. Or D, October 2009.
What was option A?
October 1975.
What was option B?
88.
September 1988.
I got my answer.
All right. I'm going to say that, I guess. All right.
See it.
I'm going to say 2009.
It was 1975.
Oh, shoot.
Indiana on October 25th, 1975, and there was about 99. It was super cold and terrible weather, and this was they weren't that great. Well, they
I
were
wanted it.
I just remember, and I was trying to think of the last time they did renovations and would have had part of the stadium closed.
Sure, 2009 was, that was it, actually. And they were really bad in 2009, so that would have been a pretty.
That was the Rich Rod years, right? That was just pre-Hope.
Exactly.
Right?
And the thing is, when I was coming up with the question, that was the Rich Rod's that was his second year.
Last year, I think, right?
No, he had one more after that. But he, when I was coming up with that question, I wanted to throw in that year because I knew people would be like, oh, they were bad. Maybe no one showed up for that game.
Yeah.
But, okay, number 2. Which of these players were drafted number 1 overall in the NFL draft? Which former Michigan players were drafted number 1 overall out of college? A, Charles Woodson. B, Desmond Howard. C, Tom Harmon. Or D, Braylon Edwards.
Wow, you left out an obvious one. Yeah. So you said Woodson, Braylon Edwards. Who was B? Because you said Harmon was C.
Desmond Howard.
I got my answer.
Okay.
I'm going to go with D.
It is Tom Harmon. Joel got it right. Yeah.
Shoot.
1940 was his senior year. He won the
Braylon
Heisman
Edwards was
Trophy
the
that
3rd
year.
or 4th overall, or maybe the 7th pick. I'm trying. I think he was.
Who?
Braylon Edwards, wasn't he like the
Edwards
4th?
was 3rd. Edwards went 3. Desmond Howard went 6, and I believe Charles Woodson also went 3 or 4. He went 4 actually.
Yeah.
So the only other number 1 pick
You
was
left out Jake Long, so I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I wasn't gonna give it easy. Come on.
Okay, all right.
All right, number 3. Which QB holds the Michigan record for passing yards in a single season? A, Jim Harbaugh. B, Tom Brady. C, Shea Patterson. D, John Navarre.
Ooh. Golly.
I was thinking it was Jake Rudock.
I think I know, but if it's not this, I know who it is.
Okay.
So, all right. I got mine. You ready to go?
All right. Yeah. I'm going to say Harbaugh.
I'm gonna say Navarre, but it's Harbaugh.
John Navarre. It was John Navarre. And guess who was second? Jay Patterson was actually second.
Really?
Right behind him for last year. And then right behind him was Jake Rudock.
I knew
I
Jake
remember
Rudock was way up.
man. I remember.
Those three are the only three that have ever thrown for over 3,000 yards in a season, which is pitiful. But
Yeah, I think because Jake Rudock, like, there was some big thing about him passing Jim Harbaugh because it was like he passed his
that and he was the first QB since John Navarre in 2003 to throw for over 3,000 yards. In a
John,
season.
and that's surprising. That's how good that offense was because they had like Chris Perry back in the day, and I think he went through. And he had Mike Hart, so Henny crossed my mind.
He had his freshman year technically was probably his best statistical year because he had Braylon Edwards, Jason Avant, Steve Breston, Mike Hart. I mean, he had a stacked team, but he was a freshman.
I remember the John Navarre years. They were actually drafted right after each other, back to back. Jeff Smoker and John Navarre when Michigan State and Michigan played.
I remember John Navarre played it. He started a game for the Cardinals against the Lions and just got destroyed.
Yeah, they were bad. The Cardinals had no quarterbacks that year.
And Navarre threw like 4 interceptions in the game and never played again. So.
Yep, and Smoker went to the Rams.
Yep. All right. Number 4. Who holds Michigan's career record for total offense? A. Chad Henne. B. Devin Gardner. C. Denard Robinson. D. John Navarre.
I don't know, man.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to say Chad Henne.
It is not Chad Henne. He is second. It is Denard Robinson. Denard Robinson actually ran away with it. He's over 10,000 yards, and but it is.
Yeah, the rush and those wheels, man, shoeless.
Okay. What year was
I'm doing hot.
What year was the first official year for Michigan's football team? A. 1879. B. 1877. C. 1888. Or D. 1891.
I don't know, man. Can I phone a friend?
Phone a friend. There you go.
Yeah, Joel, what do you think it is? Can you say them again?
Yeah, A. 1879. B. 1877. C. 1888. Or D. 1891.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 88.
So, 1879 is correct.
Darn.
Halfway through.
I thought they just had Team 130, but it must have been Team 140.
It was.
Who was the last Michigan quarterback to beat Ohio State? A. Chad
Brady
Henne.
Hoke.
B. Denard Robinson. C. John Navarre. Or D. Devin Gardner.
I have my answer.
I'm trying to think of when it was. Wasn't it like 2009? Good Lord. What are the options one more time?
A. Chad Henne. B. Denard Robinson. C. John Navarre. D. Devin Gardner.
Well, they might have. No, wait a minute.
Come on, Joel. This is easy.
You know what? I'm torn. I think it's Devin Gardner.
Right. I think it's Devin Gardner.
It's Denard Robinson.
Oh, I had Denard. I typed out Denard, and then I changed it to Gardner.
Denard Robinson was the starting quarterback for the 2011 team. That year, Gardner was his backup mostly.
Yeah.
And didn't play actually much at all. And then the year after that is when Denard started as the quarterback, got hurt. Before he got hurt, Gardner was a receiver, and then they moved him back to quarterback, and he was the quarterback.
I literally had Denard typed out, and then I switched it. I'm so dumb. I shouldn't have second-guessed myself.
See, I thought it would have been something stupid late in the season where Denard Robinson was hurt.
Well, that was,
It always seemed to be
very
hurt.
easily could have been. Very easily could. The next year he was, and then they really should have beaten Ohio State that year, too. That was
Stephen Threet was the last one, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't. That wasn't.
He might have been
Okay.
one since, but
What was Rich Rodriguez's final career record at Michigan?
Awful.
A, 17-20. B, 22-15. C, 18-19. D, 15-22.
I'm gonna go with. Oh, never mind. Can't say yet.
Okay, I think it was. What'd you say? Options one more time. I want to make sure I get the one.
A, 17-20. B, 22-15. C, 18-19. D, 15-22.
Okay, I'm only going based on the how many wins he had because I don't think I can add up the losses a second. Okay, I think I got it.
I'm gonna go with A.
It is D. Joel's right. He was very bad.
Yeah.
He only had the one winning season. Technically, it was the third year. He was 7-6. So, okay. What was Nick Saban's record against Michigan while he was the head coach at Michigan State? A, 2-3. B, 3-2. C, 2-2. Or D, 4-1.
All right.
I don't know. 2-2.
He was 2-3. Correct. He was good. And actually, if you hear him talk about Michigan, he's part of the reason why he left Michigan State was he was just sick of recruiting against Michigan State and was ready to go somewhere else.
Now he can get anybody he wants.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Who holds the Michigan football record for receiving yards in a single game? A, Desmond Howard. B, Braylon Edwards. C, Jeremy Gallen. Or D, Roy Roundtree.
Oh gosh, it's not who we think it would be. I think I know. All right, I think this is it, but it could definitely
I'm
not.
gonna go with D.
Roundtree, it is Jeremy Gallen. Joel's figuring these out. Roundtree is second, though. Roundtree is right behind
I
him.
remember, I was gonna say that's why I said I don't think it's who we think it is. I think that's why I was going between Gallen and Roundtree.
Yep. All right. And number 10, who holds the Michigan record for field goals in one game? A, Remy Hamilton. B, Quinn Nordine. C, Jay Feely. Or D, Jake Moody.
Oh gosh. Oh, might have Moody. I think recently put up a bunch. I'm gonna go with the one that had the most successful NFL career.
I'm gonna go with Quinn Nordine.
Quinn Nordine is second, tied for second with 5. Jay Feely is not the answer. It is Jake Moody. He had 6 against Indiana.
I was gonna say I thought he might have put up I thought it was 5. I would not have put 6, but
He had 6 field goals against Indiana.
7 out of 10, not good enough.
Nope.
I don't think I got a single one.
I didn't put that on the Google.
One or
The
two,
Google.
didn't you?
Yeah. But I'll put it up there and see. I feel like that was relatively tough.
That was tough. Yeah. I think I guessed on 2 of them. Educated guess. I wouldn't say I completely was like I don't know, but yeah, those were good. That means Isaiah gets to come up with a Red Wings or a Pistons or a Theology or a whatever one next.
That would be good.
Yeah. It won't be stupid stuff like your guys' quizzes are made of.
Dude, my next one's not
Sure,
even
the Lions one too.
my next
Try
one's
to
not
make-
even sports.
I'm gonna try to make a quiz where neither of you get any of the answers right.
They have to be multiple choice. You got to give us a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you multiple choice, but like
I think we're bound to get one right if you give us multiple choice on 10. The odds are semi in our favor.
No, it's gonna be like how many points did Gretzky have in his career? Then I'm gonna give you all numbers that are like one number off from each other.
Jeez, dude. You gotta make sure.
2,812, 2,813, 2,811.
Do you know the exact answer off the top of your head? You shouldn't ask.
No, I don't even know I don't know. I think it's 1,794.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
I'll look it up now.
I wouldn't even know. You're not gonna ask what is the word for spirit in Greek?
Oh, I was close to his assists. He actually did have 2,800 points, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's the funniest part about the Gretzky. The craziest stat about Gretzky is he had more assists than I think the next person had points.
Yes, by like 100.
By like a lot.
Yeah.
Like he could have never scored a goal, and he would still have more points than anybody else.
That's an untouchable record. I think we talked about that when we went over untouchable records. But
Yeah, that's easily. There's no chance anybody's catching that ever.
He like of the official like NHL records, he has like for offensive things, he has like 60 of them, and the next highest person is Martin Brodeur, who is a goalie, just because he has so many goalie ones. But like, it's insane.
Yep.
Hey,
So
good
good
stuff today, guys.
He has 42 more assists than the second place person has points.
All right, well, challenge us, but make sure they're not too challenging. You gotta kind of know them yourself, too, pal.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, because you knew the Gretzky's exact goal amount for sure.
I mean, I knew it was in the 2800s, man.
Fair enough. Well, good show today, guys. Thanks for popping on the 6-3, and we'll be back next week to give you some more hot takes and good lists and great questions.
For sure.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.
Yeah.